lovely to chat to you today, Brenda. And I wonder if you could just give us a brief introduction to who you are and what you're up to at the moment.
Well, my name is Brenda Walker, Joan Brenda Walker. The computers all call me Joan and everyone else calls me Brenda. I live in Somerset with my partner, David Cowan, and we have a lovely garden and a bungalow, and I spend my time in lockdown now because I'm 86 and he's 87, and I spend my time cooking, creative cooking, and reading and writing and cleaning.
Oh no. I wonder if you could tell us what your background is, whether you started in science or whether it's something else.
It's long, it's a lifetime. Well, my background has been straddled between the arts and education, and most of my experience was at the beginning in educational drama and speech therapy. And I trained as a teacher then and had experience with all ages, including those with special needs, children and adults. I became a head teacher in Walthamstow, a Group 6 infant school, and I was there for 12 years. Then I would leave and do something else. And I'd been to Romania, and my interest was then in literature and translation. And so I started a publishing company on my own called Forest Books. And we knew nothing about it. And I remember the first time ringing up a publisher and saying, we want to publish a book. And he said, well, what's the size? We said, well, sort of book size. We knew nothing about it. And I won the Woman in Publishing Award. And in total, I did 100 books or more.
That's incredible.
Until my husband died, and then I went to live in Romania. And I had no degree. I had teacher training, but no degree. So I decided to do an external London BA honours degree. So I did a BA honours Shakespeare degree and got a 2-2, which, considering, I thought was quite good.
Yeah.
And then I went on, and every half term I left my school to go to Keele University, and I took my MA in educational psychology, hence the science coming into it. I learned Romanian, but after the death of my husband, when I went to live there, I thought I'd go and retire in Romania. But when they found out what I could do, I had a very exciting life. I ran the International Nursery School, taught the teachers how to teach in the English way. I worked for the British Council as an examiner for IELTS because I'd had experience in teaching English as a foreign language. I was a director of the International School in Bucharest, the American International School. So I learned about the American system. And when you consider that I left school at 16 and went to work in an office, since then you asked, I think, had I done much in science apart from that? Well, apart from looking after the health of 7 children, I had 5 children in 7 years, rather. And in general, all the kids that passed through my school. No, I hadn't.
Wow. But I mean, incredible just what you were able to achieve, and yeah, in all those different countries and the different systems and using the skills.
It's a very exciting adventure.
But yeah, you've mentioned that that you did some educational psychology and I guess had a bit of the science coming in there. But we know now that you're an associate member of the BNA. So how did you come to be interested in neuroscience in particular?
A strange story. I was out gardening and I was just about to look over the fence at the horse in the field beyond us to see if it had eaten the apple I'd thrown. And the next thing I knew, without any knowledge of it or warning, I just suddenly blacked out and I hit my head on the tree, a very gnarled root of a tree. And to my amazement, if I put my hand near my hair, I got an electric shock. And I couldn't understand this. Anyway, I went to A&E and everything was normal and all right, but it made me interested in why. I decided to find out exactly why I'd had this strange feeling. So I thought, I'll find out about the brain and the nervous system. And I started to teach myself by looking at Google and many articles. And eventually I decided I needed more help. And so I looked again about neuroscience and found the BNA. I rang up and there was this wonderful young, charming fellow called Alex Colcutt, and he helped me in so many ways to and encouraged me to be an associate member. And so that's how it all started.
So the BNA have recently introduced annual themes as a way to guide our activities and what we do throughout the year and the programme of work in the years ahead. And so this year we've been focusing on pain and had our festive symposium all about the neuroscience of pain. And next year's theme is on ageing. Now, you amazingly completed your doctorate at the age of 79, if I got that right, and your research involved looking into...
Third at 79, started at 70.
Oh, okay. Wow, you researched into the new dynamics of ageing. So can you just tell us a bit more about that, what that involved?
Yes, I look back at my, to try and, at the abstract, and I've actually put a bit down to read because it's a little complicated and it puts it so formally in that way. Then, having explored the dynamics between author, publisher and reader, I was able to conclude there was a superficial disharmony between them, whereas in fact they were mutually complementary. The dichotomy appearing to be due to misunderstanding and lack of trust. In reality, a large percentage of readers, in line with recent research on film audiences, felt it acceptable for people over the age of 60 to have normal needs and desires. This acceptability and the new dynamics of aging inform the novel, which places the research in a wider context and constitutes the second part of the PhD. The novel there refers to my novel, Excellent. And as I say, it was conferred in the spring of 2013, and I was 79. But I left Romania in 2006, as I say, and met up with David, a friend we'd known from the 60s. And all my life I'd been creative. And here I was, in Loughborough, near the university, where once I'd been when it was a men's teacher training college and I lived in Loughborough. I thought, I'd love to do something creative with words again. And so I rang them up and there was a creative writing course. And at that time, I didn't know anything about needing a question for my research. I didn't know anything about researching. So I just thought, I could write a novel, you see. I had ideas in my head. But then, of course, when I got the question, which was, if 50 is the new 70, what are English publishers doing? Why are there no stories to show that adults are not, are not asexual over the age of 60? And so that was my question. And then having the question, I was able to launch into the research. And wow, what an adventure that set me on into.
I remember when you wrote to me, when you were writing your book review, you said about how you ended up becoming a patient advocate due to some surgery that you had to have during your PhD. So maybe you could just tell us a little bit more about what happened, how that led you to become a patient.
It wasn't actually surgery, they call it a procedure because they don't cut you open, which was the joy of it, really. I chose to have that method. He did this new method on me called TAVI, which is transcatheter aortic valve implantation. And what they do, they put it up your groin, this inside, and into your heart, and they push the old valve out, and that goes into the sides of your heart, and the little umbrella sort of opens, and there we are, fighting fit again. And that's what I had done, and this, as I say, led to me being a patient advocate. I ended up at Brussels at the European Union roundtable discussion, and also at the Houses of Parliament in London for the medical technical group discussion. And so I have had a very interesting life, which has expanded my own knowledge as I've gone along. And I've transferred to them a patient's perspective of dealing with aortic stenosis and an alternative route towards positive aging, to be an asset, not a burden to society. The route to senescence, as I've said, is a lottery. You can either become ill and not get the treatment you want, perhaps, or other circumstances, and you age very quickly. But if you have the right attitude and you're educated and you understand your body, I do believe that there is a chance, or it has been in my case, to to keep well and help others and do other things. I've done so much just from living here in Somerset.
It's such a wonderful thing, that phrase that you used, to be a help, an asset, not a burden. And yeah, I think that's something really.
And the role of, and the future role of artificial intelligence. I mean, I've been involved through Heart Valve Voice in Manchester with going to Cambridge University to discuss, a patient's viewpoint of them doing a smart stethoscope when it comes to analysing the heartbeat. So to feel that, to know that old people are not different. They're all the same inside. It's just a matter of their story changes. I made a list for you. Age is just a number. To feel needed, that's very important. To have good social relationships, with or without sex. To keep using language so that words are recalled more often from a past personal field, or by reading a variety of books, both fiction and non-fiction. To have a goal in mind is very important. To make sure you have a plan to carry it out and be ready to seize the opportunity if one is offered to you, like you offered me this interview. And to keep informed about your body and your treatment, and to want to know about them.
Yeah, and we've been learning, I think, more and more as scientists about neuroadaptation and how that when we use certain skills more and more, those connections in our brain become stronger. So as you've said about keeping those skills.
That's what I've learned. You see, I've learned a lot. Helps me personally.
Amazing, and thank you for offering your perspective and so many helpful things about positive aging and how we can really encourage that. I wonder what you'd be excited to see, any particular activities or discussions in the coming year for the BNA as we look at aging as a topic from a science perspective and in society.
I was interested in the storytelling one. But then I did more research online and found that everyone else had done it. So I thought, well, never mind. Then I found it had been done to produce stories that show a positive attitude to Alzheimer's, where people are treated. There was that story where there was this gentleman who'd always been very particular about his clothes and getting dressed and everything. And all that had gone, and he'd been put somewhere where he couldn't keep that image of himself, his character. And he disintegrated. But anything that will emphasize positive aging can be the norm, and that young people need to see the older generation in a different light. So those are two things I think should be recognized.
So I just wonder if there are any things that you'd like to share that you've most enjoyed about being an associate member of the BNA.
Yes, it's knowing I can get advice when I want it. And that I'm pleased that education is now at the forefront of your work. It's nice to be able to read an article other than Neuroscience News to see what's happening. And I get that in my inbox every morning. And also book reviews. In lockdown, I found the book you mentioned in the review section. This.
Oh, it's come. That's brilliant. Lovely.
I couldn't put it down. I had to finish it. I need to read it again because it's very key, It's things like that which I think is. And now now since I've been associated with the BNA and been reading more, my vocabulary has changed. I now have a scientific vocabulary, and so I can now read abstracts and extracts from other people's work and understand most of it. Not the science, the maths, the equations.
Well, it takes years.
But apart from that, I think not bad for an arts person.
That's amazing.
I would say to anyone wanting to join, go for it. It's well worth the money.
Oh, brilliant.
To be part of the scientific community at a time of crisis like this.